Frazier Glenn Miller is a very scary character. He's been out there almost his entire life. He's now in his mid-70s as a part of this movement. He's been associated with all kinds of plans for criminal violence, including, in fact, the assassination of the founder of the Southern Poverty Law Center, Morris Dees.
Details emerge how for decades, Frazier Glenn Miller sought out any soapbox to espouse white supremacist beliefs, twice running for federal office with campaigns steeped in anti-Semitism. We're joined by criminal defense attorney Michelle Suskauer to talk about hate crimes.
And a $12 billion investment in Ally Financial by the government pays back nearly $3 billion in profits. Is this a sign of smart investment by the administration or just dumb luck? We'll speak to the authors of Uncle Sam Can't Count, Burton and Anita Folsom, about why the government should stay clear of big business and how past interferences have led to financial disaster.
And the federal judge who ordered Ohio to recognize the marriages of same-sex couples performed in other states says he's inclined to issue a stay of his decision pending appeal, meaning most gay couples living in the state would see no immediate, tangible expansion of their rights. We'll talk with Jim Daly, president of Focus on the Family, about the changing faces of faith and family in the United States as we head into the final hour of America's Forum. What began as 2 for Tuesday has become 4 for our final hour of America's Forum. Welcome back. I'm J.D. Hayworth.
And I'm John Brockman. We brought in some reinforcements. Miranda Kahn here with us. Yes. Also, our legal expert, Michelle Suskauer, with us to talk about the situation in Kansas. And guys, we're all still reeling from the tragedy that happened over the weekend. But when we look for strength, there's no way to better encapsulate that by this mom and daughter who's been out there in front talking to the press despite the loss of her son and her father in this shooting. And here is that mother talking to the media.
He had 2 songs that he thought he might get the chance to sing too, but the first one was On the Street Where You Live from My Fair Lady. And then if they were going to give him a chance to sing again, he was going to sing You Will Miss Me When I'm Gone.
The cruel irony of that song choice. Mindy Lowson, the mother of 14-year-old Reed Underwood, who you saw in those pictures a few seconds ago. She's also the daughter of William Corpson, 2 of the people that were killed in Sunday's shooting at a Jewish community center. You see her there pushing through, managing a smile unbelievably as she talked about her son's plans for that day. He was there to audition, I believe, for a play of some sort. Lawson said the 2 family members drove to the center because, you know, the teen was out there trying to compete in a local singing competition. The suspect, who you see in these old pictures here, 73-year-old Frazier Glenn Cross, a former white supremacist and former Grand Dragon of the Ku Klux Klan, ties to several paramilitary groups you heard in the opening here, once threatening to kill the founder of the Southern Poverty Law Center. Investigators are now describing officially Sunday's incident as a hate crime, and Cross has also been charged with at least 1 count of capital murder, and they're also talking about more federal charges as well.
Now, yesterday it became fairly apparent that it was probably a hate crime, but as we told you yesterday, we needed the verification of some investigation to make this determination. It's more than just an opinion, it's actually a legal status.
Well, the Southern Poverty Law Center there tracks hate groups. They say they've been involved, or Cross has been involved with these groups for over 20 years. Authorities also say Cross was armed with a shotgun and a pistol, but did not elaborate on what exactly triggered the rampage. The shootings occurred as the Jewish celebration of Passover was about to begin. However, none of Cross's victims were Jewish.
To talk about this horrible crime, we're joined by our legal expert, Michelle Suskauer. Michelle, when I would be on the stump and we were talking about federal legislation for hate crimes, I would say this in no way to be flippant, but I would say, well, wait a minute, isn't every crime, certainly every violent crime, precipitated by hate? And if that is the case, if there's uniform sentencing for a horrendous crime, just explain to me the rationale of a hate crime and
Sure.
that kind of codification.
Right. Well, again, we're talking. There's federal, and then there's state. So right now, he was just charged with a state not a hate crime, but actually 2 counts of capital murder for the father and the grandson, and then 1 count of premeditated first-degree murder. And there is the death penalty in Kansas, although it has not been utilized since the mid-70s. In terms of a hate crime, he has not yet been charged with a hate crime, but it is anticipated that the federal authorities will be charging him with a hate crime. So why a hate crime? And you're exactly right. Isn't everything precipitated when there is a murder by hate? But this is singling out an individual for what you perceive because of their religion, their race, their sexual orientation. And this individual specifically went to 2 different places where he thought he was targeting individuals who were Jewish. He went to the Jewish
Christian,
right? They all
right.
And Catholic. They went to a Jewish community center and then an assisted living facility for individuals who were Jewish. And he actually he murdered 3 individuals who weren't exactly the point.
But he believed, at least officers believe,
Right.
he thought they were in fact Jewish. But there's an actual legal definition. That
Right, and in state court, you can actually have aggravated circumstances because there is a hate crime.
Right.
And so in this particular situation, right now, nothing has been charged regarding the fact that it's a hate crime, but he is facing the death penalty in Kansas. And I don't believe, and I haven't heard that he's going to be facing the death penalty federally. By the way, that is not used very often. We hear, of course, and of course today on the anniversary of the Boston Marathon bombing,
Right.
he's facing the death penalty. You know, Timothy McVeigh. We don't have a lot of cases in the federal system that the death penalty is actually instituted. But right now in Kansas, that's what he's facing, 3 counts.
Well, as we point out, and I can almost hear the arguments of the defense attorney going, whoa, wait a minute. First of all, they'll call into question the perpetrator's sanity, but the other thing they'll be mentioned, wait a minute, these people were not Jewish. So the defense they will try to build, I would think, saying this is horrible, but it wasn't driven by, I can just see that argument.
Well, I mean, I'm a defense attorney,
Right.
and as a defense attorney, I don't think that that's really going to be your strongest point. I think the first thing you're probably going to have to work on is maybe some mental health defense.
Right,
I think that's kind of your
exactly.
strongest way. But I understand your point, and the fact is, you know, that wasn't his intent. His intent was to murder Jews, and he wasn't successful. But he murdered 3 individuals. But that was his intent, and that's what the state is going to have to
But also
prove.
problematic here, Michelle, is his history. We saw those pictures. He's got a long history of anti-Semitic and racist behavior here. So if you're trying to come up with some sort of mental excuse, like it's a problem, how do you do that? Because he's well established as a racist.
There's no question. He's also served prison time before in federal prison, I think for 3 or 4 years for communication and I think maybe wire fraud. That is a problem. But again, I don't know. As a defense lawyer, you'd be looking for the last several years from his last communication what his mental health status is, just because he may have been quote unquote sane, or maybe he's never been sane. And again, you have to look at what the legal definition in Kansas is regarding insanity.
Right.
But again, given that is, and the insanity defense doesn't often work. And it certainly would be very difficult to work in this situation. But I think as a defense lawyer, you have to look in that direction.
But a lot of people don't quite understand insanity defense. Can you explain
Well,
how it works? Because
right.
people always say, well, of course he's got to be crazy. He did this.
Well, right, and that doesn't, but again, you're also, you know, you have to look and see whether or not he knows the difference between right and wrong, and there are different standards in different states, and federal is different than state. But, so I haven't looked up the Kansas insanity rule and whether they use one or the other, which are the more established rules. But I think what's significant is, what did he do to plan? And that may negate that. What did he do? How did he plan it? He came from a different state. How much did he case the JCC? Did he know about the activity, et cetera? So that would negate that. And again, this just happened. We're learning about this. We're going to learn a whole lot more, and I'm looking forward to see what the federal charges are going to be as well.
And there will be federal charges, if for no other reason than geography, with Kansas City and Overland Park, Kansas, right there on the Kansas Kansas-Missouri border, the interstate nature of this, no matter our discovery, would virtually ensure federal involvement in a case like this.
Absolutely. We will see it. They also have announced there will be federal charges. It's just going to be, they said next week.
And so what do you think? I know it's different in every case, but will the state case proceed first, or will the Fed step in and supersede the state case?
You know, it's a very good question. I don't know, and I think that, you know, they both have to proceed on their own terms. But I think that because they're seeking the death penalty in the state case, that may be the one that's going to be moving quicker. But again, these cases don't necessarily move so fast when you're seeking the death penalty.
Right.
Michelle Suskauer, it's not going to be the last time we'll talk about this particular case, and we appreciate your contributions.
My
and
pleasure.
Giving us the legal point of view on these tough situations. Certainly a tragedy there in Overland Park, Kansas.
Yeah.
We're interested in your reactions, your thoughts about this horrible crime and about the role of hate crimes in our society. You can tweet us at Newsmax TV, hashtag America's Forum. Also email us. Our address, connect@newsmaxtv.com.